My name is Geoff Moore, and I'm the founder of an initiative called Pin to Purpose.
Can you tell me about your own mental health journey?
Yeah, well, in particular, I was quite a few years ago in the middle of my career. I was hospitalized for 5.5 weeks after the company I tried to start, the entrepreneurial journey, um, wasn't succeeding, and there was an extended period where I was trying to make it survive and happen. And my wife was not working at the time. We had four young kids. So there were quite a few responsibilities outside of the business too. But, I didn't realize, but I do like sports. I do like to be active, but I wasn't doing any sports at that time. I wasn't really eating properly. I was skipping meals. I found out I had sleep apnea, so I was never getting a good night's sleep either. And I was also just working very hard trying to, if I was going to the office until 2 in the morning and then maybe going back at 7 or 8 or something. But eventually it just led to me being quite sick. And my doctor sent me home for a couple of weeks and put me on different medications, but it was only getting worse. And so I went to, they brought me into the hospital and kind of were you know, interviewing me to see what was going on. And I thought we spoke for about 15 minutes, but it turned out we were speaking for 3 hours. So eventually they just said, look, you really need to, you need to be admitted. And so I had this long journey and a journey of recovery, which led me to the conclusions that I have and the people that I've met and the wonderful caregivers that I worked with and my belief that everybody in the world, depending on what happens to them, can have a breaking point. And so I've created this initiative called Pin to Purpose in an attempt to give one other reference point, because there are many ways to look at it, but this is hopefully adding one more to the mix, that you know that people aren't weak, but they're in a weakened state when they have a mental health condition or challenge, and they're deserving of a hand up and respect, because if other people who don't have that were going through something similar, they would be very much pinned too. So it goes on from there, but that's kind of the where this all comes from.
What was it like telling your story for the first time publicly?
Um, it goes both ways. The thing is, this did happen to me over a decade ago. And so, I needed to actually make sure that I wasn't fully stigmatized either, to make sure I got my career back so I could take care of my family. So I was doing it periodically, and I didn't find the support groups as much. Maybe they were there, I just didn't find them. So I had to be careful again. For the first many months after getting out of the hospital, I felt my head was in a fog. I was on some medications, but so I couldn't really think clearly enough either to get back to things. So, but when I started speaking about it, it goes both ways. I mean, you do know, or I did know that I was, there is some, you are helping people, and I learned more and more that everybody is dealing with different things, which I realized, but at different times people are dealing with very intense things. So I just think our common humanity means that both mental and physical health are health. Spiritual health is health. It's all part of being human. We're not here forever. I think that's something people forget. Like we maybe, not that it's not to be depressing, it's to be grateful and to be, engaged in your life. And remember, like to cast stigma on somebody else who just needs to have a healing journey is not recognizing our own vulnerability, depending on what happens in our lives.
Yeah, and I live with bipolar disorder too, and sharing my story with people that also have lived experience makes me feel good, makes me feel like I'm not alone. Do you feel that same way?
Yes, yes, I do. And it's been, I'm feeling it more as I speak more and I do different things. And with this initiative, absolutely. And to me, it actually is, it's a great sign for everybody that eventually, your efforts, the people that you speak to's efforts, my contribution, lots of people and organizations collectively, hopefully, will break through, and there will be a day when people will just say, look, this person I call it being pinned. I mean, that's just the way I'm calling it. But this person is pinned at this time. They're in a weakened state, and they deserve our respect and a hand up the way we would if they had cancer or a physical, other type of issue, right? But no, absolutely. I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and I'm really enjoying meeting people and learning from them. It's partly why I'm going to do my own podcast. Partly why and I look forward to inviting you on, and getting more people's stories out there.
Yeah, with the podcast and nonprofit, can you tell me all your goals and visions for the organization?
Sure. Well, maybe I'll go back to explaining to people, and if I can say, it is called Pinned to Purpose, so the number two, purpose.com. And then that's linked to a YouTube channel that I've just started where I'll download the podcast. But the first goal is to, I'm hoping that, so I better explain for people who haven't seen it, because probably none of your viewers have seen it, but the concept. So when I was in the hospital, a very helpful thing my doctor told me was, Geoff, everybody in the world has a breaking point, and you found one of yours. So that actually made me feel less like, oh my God, I'm the only one this has ever happened to, or how can I be such, how can I have let this happen, or something. The self-talk, it relieved some of the pressure and the weight on me, right? And he also said, um, uh, you know, I know you have 4 kids. I know you like to be involved in the community, but right now this is about you. Like, so forget about helping other people now. We're going to help you. So this was a continued taking the weight off, taking the pressure off, right? So I thought, what can I say to people? Because I wouldn't have expected to ever have this experience in my life. What can I say to people that would make them relate? And I came up with this exercise in the gym. You just take a 45-pound bar, and the exercise leads to the same result every single time for the strongest men and women in the world. Anybody of any age who's able-bodied, anywhere, anytime, every time. So it's like, that's a strange claim to make. It doesn't make much sense until you hear what it is. All it is you do the 45 pounds reps, and it only counts when the very last rep, you can't even get it off your chest anymore. And then you're pinned, right? So the strongest NFL football player would still get pinned. They would do a lot more reps than other people who aren't as strong. But what I was trying to show is, so you're pinned. You have hit a breaking point. And so by using that metaphor, then you can get into the discussions with people once they've done that. Say, well, this person that you didn't realize was struggling, was struggling under this load that they've had because of these major issues. And it could be to do with, it could be to do with a bankruptcy or a divorce, or parents getting divorced, or, there's a many numbers of things, or a diagnosis of being bipolar or schizophrenic, different things that you would know better than me. But what I'm trying to say is then, so if I'm trying to build a bridge of understanding and trying to say, look, everybody can have the breaking points. It depends on what happens in your life. So, if that allows people to take a bit of the weight off of themselves and then be willing to talk, then that's the biggest goal I have. Like, if people see that and like are not so hard on themselves and don't think you have to be Superman and always deal with everything, and then they reach out for help. They don't have to tell the world. It's their business. They can be as private as they want, but they should not struggle alone. And that's why there's the number 2 in this pinned to purpose. You're not weak. You're in a weakened state, and you're pinned, as anybody could be, depending on how much you're trying to deal with. And then 2, again, getting other people involved to help you in a healing journey. And then the purpose, in my view, is, I think when people are especially down, it's good to have a North Star of purpose. And that can be very different things for everybody. I'm not suggesting I know anybody's or recommend anybody's specific purpose, but it could be their family. It could be, it could be a real passion they have. It could be a pet. It could be anything, but you've got to have some hope for the future and realize you can have a better day. So my goals are to have one more framework, and it can be used anywhere. This can be used in high schools. It can be used in, like, we're going to do some different different sessions with like different companies and groups like that to experiential learning for their mental wellness week. There's one group we've signed up to do this shortly, um, and it's just to so help to relieve stigma and give people a hand up on their healing journeys. And then it's basically passing the ball because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, I'm not, but I am somebody who has one lived experience and wants to connect with others and you know, bring a bit more hope and positivity and a bit of reframing so people don't think they're weak because nobody's weak. When people are actually very strong, they're dealing with more than most people can handle.
Yeah, how does it feel for you to be turning your purpose into a nonprofit?
Yeah, I mean, I no, it's well, so my overall business is still there, which is I actually help different groups to raise capital. So I may help different funds um that can be in the mental health space as well, right? But they can be in other areas of impact. And then this is tied as an initiative. So depending on
Yeah.
how much time I spend, like some of it will be definitely just going out and speaking to groups, etc. But other times, if I'm hired by a corporation to do a workshop, then that will be tied into the overall business. If it's a big company, etc. So, but I just think I went to the Real Foundation's event in New York City in October and met Sean Lesser and met a lot of amazing people. Tons of courageous, wonderful souls who shared their genuine stories of pain and but you know recovery and purpose and recovery. We all struggle still at times, obviously with different things, but um, I'm just happy to be meeting so many great people, including yourself, and being in this broader community because you know I I I I'm surprised what happened to me, but I've learned that I shouldn't be surprised because if life plays hardball, anybody can get hit very, very hard.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about impact investing?
Sure. I mean, I think of it as, in the simplest form, I think about it as counting to two or three instead of one. And so that's seems like a ridiculous statement, but so investing has always been about money and financial returns, and that's what it's all about. And that's fine. Impact investing is too. But when I say count to two or three, you just have a second or third goal as well. So, if you want to go after a climate related investment, it could be in terms of investing in clean technologies or clean tech, energy efficiency, decarbonization, different things like that. Or, it could be also a social issue. And, I know this is problematic for some people now, but I believe in it 100%. I think it's very critical that we have these opportunities and they are very legitimate investments. And, because of sustainability issues, I think we have to go after them in the future. I know, again, it is controversial in some places, but I believe that so it's really impact investing is targeting two or three objectives instead of one. Um, and I'd like to make a point there because in my own life and my own experience, I had the oldest father of any of my friends. So my father was born in 1906, and when I grew up, he was a World War II vet. He spent a year and a half in the subarctic in the 1920s on an expedition. So he was quite an adventurous guy. But because I grew up with a retiree, I've had a lifelong belief that, and hanging around with older people, that as we all age, finances are one important thing, but there's about three other core areas. And one of them is health. Health is number one. Like, it's always number one, but as you get older, it's even more so. So when you're retired and getting a pension, your health is number one. The finances hopefully provide you with a stable living and hopefully a enjoyable living. The second one is family, friends, or community, or community. So feeling engaged in society, and the finances is there. That's the third, and then purpose is the fourth. Like, if you like on my website, I have a little anecdote about my 105-year-old relative, Alf Moore, who was a cousin of my dad's, and he would wake up every day at 105 and go to the mirror and in his old folks home and say, "Oh, good, you're still here." And then he would say, "Happy birthday, Alf." So he would celebrate his birthday every day, right? But if you and I were 205-year-olds talking to each other now, we better have purpose in our life. We better have some view on why we're still here and hopefully enjoying each day versus I've got a lot of aches and unfortunately I know I'm not going to be here for too long. So all I'm trying to say is I believe that the challenge for our industry is also to look more holistically. When you can find investments, if we're really looking out for the best interests of retirees, pensioners, if you can find investments, yes, that target an attractive financial return, no argument, but that also contribute to health, healthy societies in many different ways, or also communities and friends, family. There's different ways to engage people and purpose and impact investing is defined as intentionally addressing these issues. It is full of purpose. It's just to say, like, excuse me, in philanthropy, when people make a donation to a cause they care about, they're happy to do it because they care about it. And philanthropy is, by some definitions, I believe, is called the love of humanity. So impact investing, I think, is investing, yes, with a clear and strong financial goal, but also, based on other issues that when you care about something and you have a few dollars, you would give your money away. You're not looking for anything back. You just care about a cause.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
That's a great question. I have to work harder at that too because I'm spending so much time on my initiative now that I know for sure. Look, I know for sure that I do play sports still, and that's always very helpful. Being active. I play some hockey. I play tennis. I like to ski. If I get out there and do some weights, I mean, I think that's huge. I think getting into nature is absolutely huge. I think having these conversations and realizing, being grateful, and realizing that if you're involved in something that you believe in, that gives you it gives me peace of mind and gives me a joy of waking up every day. And I'm very interested in my kids' lives. I have four, like I said, only one of them lives at home now, but I'm very interested whenever I can talk to them or see them. So those are all for my mental health. Those are all things I take. I'm grateful for. I take pleasure in, and um, yeah,
What are some of the things you've learned from your kids?
they're much smarter than me, so they're better looking than me. What else? No, I mean I'm partly joking and partly not. They have been my tech department as an entrepreneur, so they would always do that. I think it's important to have a pulse of what the next generation is thinking of because the future is theirs. It's ours too, but the future, more of the future is theirs, and they're growing up in different times, um, with different challenges. So I think the like for their generation, affordability of housing is much tougher, and so it's a bit discouraging for them. And the job market is a lot less stable than it might have been when I was their age. But I think they can see the world as a big place and an exciting place, although a scary place in some ways. Um, but I think I'm just inspired. I mean, they're great kids. They're trying to go after things that mean things to them, um, and I love them all.
What would you say to anyone going through a tough time?
Well, I would say for sure you're not alone. There are many people who care. And if you are trying to do it alone, or if you are talking to yourself and, in ruminating and your self-talk is really tough, then that's what I'm trying to say with my analogy, I think, or the metaphor. I believe you're not weak. You're not weak at all. You're in a weakened state. So don't be so hard on yourself. You're carrying a heavier load than most people are by a mile, and people have been through lots of things, and people who have been through something similar to you or can empathize with you would like to be there for you, and there are better days ahead. My 105-year-old relative was really good to talk to me about, look, there are different stages in life, and you go through things, and sometimes you think, like for me, I did think when my business fell apart, and I partly dedicated to my late father, so that put pressure on me, and he wouldn't have been upset with me at all. He would have been, you tried, don't worry about it. But I was like, I let him down. Well, he's not even here, and I'm thinking that. But so for people now who are struggling, yeah, I would say, I would suggest to them to look at, your podcast, to connect with people, to find people, organizations that they can find community with on their healing journey. And don't be so hard on themselves, because everybody in the world can get pinned. I'd like to give, well, I mean, anyway, the reframing part, like I said, from making sure you're realizing that, um, that everybody in the world, depending on what's happening to you, can be pinned. And so I would just say, you know, uh, hopefully lighten the load on yourself, reach out to people that you care about, and there are better days ahead, and don't forget that.
And you're early on with Pin to Purpose, but where do you want to see it in the next few years?
Well, I really like the metaphor, because it's experiential learning, right? So just to give you an example, so I'm hoping that others will take it too. Like, I'm gonna do this at my old high school, where I went in their gym, sometime soon. And I think anybody can do this, right? You can have teenagers do the bench press. You might have a well-known sports figure there, and then you may have some counselors who then, the well-known sports figure is also saying, look, I'm not Superman, no matter what you see on social media. I also have breaking points. Don't fool yourself. You don't have to pretend you're Superman. Um, so I'm hoping that in the next few years there will be a lot of interactive workshops, that the concept will be used by other groups when it's helpful. Like I said, it's not a magic formula, but it's one possible framing. I would like to do a lot more podcasts. To I would like to have, connect with a lot more people, and yeah, and do some of these workshops, and you know, and that's it, and do talks. Like I do want to do some public speaking. I would love to have a TED talk someday, because I think like like I'm trying to add my voice, and
Yeah.
if that can be helpful, then I look forward to doing that. You know.
How can people reach out to you and learn more?
Yeah, well, I think the best way is the on my website, the pinned pinned two, the number two, purpose.com. And then there are ways to connect there. Absolutely. People can send me a note there. Happy to, I'll respond to every single one. They can also follow the YouTube channel directly from the pin2purpose.com website. And yeah, I'm happy to chat with anybody, or connect with anybody, or organizations. And like I said, I think um, for I'm trying to do this mostly because I hope that it helps to uh, shatter stigma and ease the weight on people, and give them a bit of a hand up on their healing journeys. And then I'm kind of passing the ball to so many other amazing people, organizations, and others who can help. And I would say one last big thing. I think it's interesting. I've learned more about concepts about, uh, you know, thinking about a brain economy recently, which is focusing on, that they're saying our brain is our biggest asset, because it's where we do store our knowledge, our creativity, our innovative capabilities, all of this. And society needs to invest more in prevention, in continued care, and in supports, and all of this. And so that would be very positive for, um, the overall economy, and also the well-being of people. So I think it's a relatively new initiative in the last few years, but I think that's a great thing, and hopefully that would provide more supports for people who need it, because I know that still sometimes when people are struggling, they're also not able to find the help they need that's cheap enough, or that, I mean, I'm not saying cheap, but I'm saying that's affordable, let's say. or that they can get quickly enough. And that's why I think so many organizations are doing great work to get involved in that.